So good day everyone, good day classmate. I am the leader of Group 4 and for this video our topic for today is all about um, individual versus social identity online. So individual versus social identity online. Personal identity is created through difference in characteristic when comparing with others, while social identity is created through similarity with others. So what is the difference between self-identity and social identity? So social identity refers to the set of characteristics by which a person is definitely recognized or known by the society in which they live. These are characteristics are the attributes to the individual by others. So these characteristics serve as markers that indicate what that person is in the eyes of others. At the same time, this means that this characteristic put that person in the same group as other individuals who share the same attributes. Example of social identities include being a father, mother, student, physician, lawyer, evangelical, homeless person, Catholic, and etc. Another way to define social identity is social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group memberships. This definition looks at social identity as perspective by the individual. So so while so self identity. While social identities group together individuals with the same characteristic and therefore point out ways in which individuals are the same as others. Self identity sets us apart as distinct individuals. Self-identity defines our unique sense of ourselves and our relationship to the outside world. Dictionaries define self-identity as the conscious recognition of the self as having a unique identity. It is an awareness of and identification with oneself as a separate individual. Social identity is the society. The other ways says about you, while self-identity is the story you say of yourself. So the story you tell yourself has a much more power impact in your life than the story others say about you. So these are the example of social identity. Uh, race or ethnicity, gender, social class or socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, disabilities, and religion or religious beliefs. So what is the difference between personal identity and self-identity? So the personal identity is the unique numerical identity of a person over time. So a personal identity typically aims to determine the necessary and sufficient conditions under which a person at one time and a person to another time can be said to be the same person. persisting through time. So while self-identity is how you identify and define yourself, it is your perception of specific and selective traits, qualities, abilities, and characteristics that presents you. As an individual, you have numerous physical attributes, internal characteristics, social rules, and external connections which make up your personal identity. So your self-identity is a combination of personality traits, abilities, physical attributes, interests, hobbies, and or social roles from your personal identity that you specifically selected to identify yourself. So your personal identity is a composite of all your personality traits, beliefs, values, physical attributes, abilities, aspirations, and other identifiers that makes you who you are. It is larger and more encompassing than your self-identity. Your self-identity is just your perspective of your personal identity. You may not perceive or value some of the traits that make up your personal identity, so you do not incorporate them as part of your self-identity. Simply put, personal identity is who you are, while self-identity is who you see or define.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmate. I'm Fuljan Moody Robles. My first topic is identity, personal or social. Identity refers to how people answer the question, "Who are you?" This question may be posed and answered implicitly at a personal or a collective level, to others or to oneself. Perspective on identity tend to emphasize either personal or social contents and either personal or social processes. Ako explain na kayang kung ano ang pagkakakilanlan ay tumutukoy sa kung paano tayo sumagot ng mga tanong na sino ka. Ang tanong na ito ay maaring iharap at sagutin ng tahasan o hindi malinaw sa personal o isang kolektibo antas sa iba o sarili. Ang mga pananaw na pagkakakilanlan ay may posibilidad na bigyan diin ang alinman sa personal o panlipunan mga nilalaman at malinman sa personal o panlipunan mga proseso. The second topic is, what are the 8 social identities? The big 8 social constructed identities are race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religion or spirituality, nationality, and socioeconomic status. My third topic is, how do I find my social identity? Social identity refers to a person membership in a social group. The common groups that comprise a person social identity include age, ability, ethnicality, race, gender, social orientation, economical status, and religion. As a result of your social identity, you are a member of an in-group and out-group. Personal membership is a social group is referred to as their social identity, age, ability, ethnicality, race, gender, social orientation, financial class, and religion are some of the prevalent groupings that make up One social identity, you are typically a member of an in-group and out-group as a result of your social identification. And my last topic is, what do the terms individual, identity, and communication mean to you? Identity and communication are theoretical terms denoting particular experiences that arise from participation in human, cultural, historically, and contingent society. Identity and communications are theoretical words that refers to a certain experiences that arise as a result of being a member of a human, culturally, and historically contingent and society. Mo sa mo siya ang my last topic.
What is the most important part of your identity? Key phases of identity like gender, social class, age, sexual orientation, face and ethnicity, religion, age, and disability play significant roles in determining how we understand and experience the world, as well as shaping the types of opportunities and challenges we face. Why are social identities important? So, social identity allow people to be part of group and gains a sense of belonging in their social world. These identities play an important role in shaping self-image. The more people identify with a particular group, the more the group plays a role in shaping how people feel about themselves. What are the three aspects of individual's personal identity? One's identity consists of three basic elements: personal identity, family identity, and social identity. Each of these elements is determined by individual circumstances. Why is self identity important in early childhood? So, children who feel worthy and capable are more likely to be optimistic and to do well in school. A healthy sense of identity also helps children to be more open people from other background because they are likely to fare different or put other children down to feel bitter about themselves. What is example of a person identities? Example of identities include heterosexual, gay, lesbian, bisexual, people who are attracted to people of two gender. Pansexual, a term of referring to the potential for attraction or love toward people of all gender identities and success. Sexual people who either do not feel sexual attraction or do not feel desire.
What is individualized identity? Personal identity is the concept you develop about yourself that involve other the cost of life. This may include aspect of your life that you have control over, such as where you grow up or the color of your skin, as well as choice you can make in life, such as how you spend your time and what you believe. However, I've been struggling with the question or true about who might become in the future. This as question have been true about and discussed throughout history. In a particular by philosophers who have themselves in the search of knowledge about the nature of being human, such as what does it mean to be a person and do I matter, have engaged key thinker of creating conversation that we still grateful in our society. Most people feel they want to endure in some way, but in their lives and beyond that, the philosophy offers personal identities aim to address this matter to existence and how we even know we exist through time. What is personal social identities? Personal identities is about how you see yourself as different from those around you. Social identities tells how are like others they similar rather than difference. Especially social identities has been found to moderate the influence of other substances, as for example perception of privilege and approval of drinking among other members of one group have been found to be more strongly associated with one own drinking with the individual identifies more close what the group identification with other argument their influence on us in considering social group among high school students and athletes should be more influenced by other athletes, whereas drama club students should be more influences drama club student. Why is individual identity important? First, maintain your self-identity is important because it strengthens your character. That is when you know who we are, have confidence in ourselves, and are able to identify our strength. We a stronger individual. Secondly, it gave us unique and distinguish us from everyone else. Thirdly, maintain our self identity to keep us comfortable. The sooner we embrace our flaws and all, the sooner we rid ourselves to and become comfortable with who we are. And believe me, you cannot put a price on being comfortable in our skin. Finally, we become more aware of our environment and our place in it. We are all here for a purpose to recognize our self-identities, equip us with we need to live out the purpose. With that said, I entreat you to maintain your self-identity and to remain true to yourself always. How are individual affiliation linked to identities? Social identities are most influential when individuals consider membership in a particular group to be central to their self-concept, and they feel strong emotional ties to group affiliation with a group to self-esteem, which help to sustain the social identities. For example, social standing. Social identities theories suggest that individuals tend to categorize other people on their basis characters such as educational attainment as a main of the self-comprehension difference in relative standing, whatever due to less education, less wealth, can be source of anger, envy, or stress. The long human history or bloody wars for over social class, such a revolution suggestion both that this feeling can be powerful and they can have directly consequence for health and mortality.
What is social identity threat? Social identity threat is defined as the concern people have in situation in which the positive image of their green group is threatened by the activation of negative group stereotype or by the deviation or stigmatization of the group. How do we perceive ourselves and others through social identity? Social identity theory. Our sense of self is influenced by the groups we belong to. In our discussion of social comparison, we have seen that who we compare ourselves to can affect how we feel about ourselves. For better or worse, another social influence on our self-esteem is through our Grab membership. In what way is the self social? Here are three strands of evidence indicating that the self is social. Our self-perception rely on the behavior we display to others. Self-discrepancy theory describes how different components of the self are influenced by others, and our sense of self often include other people. What is social self in understanding the self? The social self is a multifaceted analysis of the self concept based on the social nature of the self. The emphasis is on self esteem along with self centrality, self complexity, social interest, identification, power, marginality, openness, and majority identification.
Does personal identity change? Through seemingly flex, identity can be modified. Indeed, identity transformation is sometimes necessary, even therapeutic, to facilitate modifying unhealthy behaviors. Overeating, excessive drinking, drugs abuse, or to adapt to new circumstances, life after loss, diagnosis of a serious illness. So, um, immediate family, friendship groups, and the physical environment are all factors which contribute to our ever-changing perception of ourselves. Sometimes personal identity can be sub- subtly reshaped over the gradual time frame, as our sense of who we are is modified without personal recognition that we are changing. What is personal and social identity? So, the personal and social identity, where area social identity refers to the people self categorization is relation to their group's membership. Personal identity refers to the unique ways that people define themselves as individuals. For example, this might include people's personal interests and values. Social refers to the characteristic of the person known by her environment or by the society they belong to. This is often linked with their profession, hobbies, advocate, religion, families, and other activities they engage in. Our groups they belong to. Self-identity is is the thing that set them apart from the per- perspective of the society about them. This refers to their unique sense of selves and their connection or relationships to the outside world. It is their own perception of themselves and their identity as a separate individual. Social identity allows the society to, to put a person in categories or group them together with the ones who appear to do the same things or engage in the same activities. The categorization gives a sense of belongingness, self-esteem, and pride to a person. In order to increase the self-image, a person tends to enhance their status in a group which they belong. Though our social identities change over time. So, social identities change over time. A person's identity is those continues over time in the sense that the different moments that constitute this person's life are sufficiently connected in order to attribute them to one and the same person, even though the person is changing. There are different reasons to why our identities change over time. We are exposed to different things every day and
What are the types of self-identity? So the types of self-identity is first, social identity refers to the characteristic of a person known by her environment or by the society they belong to. This is often linked with their profession, hobbies, advocacies, religion, and families, and other activities they engage in or groups they belong to. So the second type of self-identity is self-identity. Is the thing that sets them apart from the perspective of the society about them. This refers to their unique sense of selves and their connection or relationship to the outside world. It is their own perception of themselves and their identity as a separate individual. So, social identity allows the society to put a person into categories or group them together with the ones who appear to do the same thing or engage in the same activities. This categorization gives a sense of belongingness, self-esteem, and pride to a person. In order to increase the self-image, a person tends to enhance their status in a group which they belong. So, for me, self-identity, how you see and define yourself, it's your belief in your own qualities and abilities, and your belief in yourself Understanding your identity involves a combination and know your own personality and habits. So a strong sense of self is important because no one helps you to make sense of life, to have healthy relationship with others, be independent. Know yourself means you don't have to change you are, just confidence. The strong self identity matters because they would give you confidence in who you are. What are your most important social identities? So, the most important social identities, for example, like generation, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, nationality, and ability, and political affiliation, and relationship status, and profession, and socio-economic status. So, so social identity allows people to be a part of groups and gain a sense of belonging in their social world. These identities play an important role in shaping self-image. Um, the more people identity with a particular group, the more that group plays a role in shaping how people feel about themselves. So, being a member of that group becomes important for how a person regards themselves and their ability. So, gaining status within the group can help people feel more confident, satisfied, and respected. So, the important because it influences how people see themselves and how they interact with others. If people have a positive view of their identity within a group, they are more likely to relate well to others in that group and feel positive emotion about themselves. What is positive social identity? The emotional investment people make in their group membership result in their self-esteem being tied to the social standing of their in groups. Consequently, a positive evaluation of one's in-group in comparison to relevant out-groups result in a positive social identity. So, positive social identity, an individual social identity indicates who they are in terms of the group to which they belong. Social identity groups are usually defined by some physical or social and mental characteristic of individuals. For example of social identities are race, ethnicity, and gender, social class, and socioeconomic status, and sexual orientation, and religion or religious beliefs. Some instructors may believe that social identities are not relevant to their courses. However, as classrooms and other universities learning communities become increasingly diverse, issues related to individual social identities may surface, and gender composition of study groups. Regardless of department, college in which they teach should be aware of and acknowledge how their social identities as well those of their students impact the teaching and learning experience. So, students who identify with one or more minoritized, marginalized social groups may experience learning environments in ways that can impact their learning process and overall experiences in classroom and other education spaces. So, for example, studies on stereotype trait provide evidence of the link between the salience of a student's membership in minoritized or marginalized social group and their academic performance. And While college students from all backgrounds report experiencing imposter syndrome, so its impact on maladaptive psychological adjustment. How is an individual's identity shaped by the society they live in? So, a person's understanding of their own cultural identity develops from birth and is shaped by values and attitudes prevalent at home and the surrounding. Nothing that the cultural identity in its essence relates to our need to belong. Everyone needs to feel accepted and at home with a certain group. So, how does society shape the individual? Social institutions such as a media, education, the government, and family and religion all have a significant impact on a person's identity. Being part of a particular social institution can also affect how much power we have in life, therefore affecting our life experiences. So, since people are living in a certain society, it greatly affects the lives of the people within it, how the society implement the rules and regulation and how it manages the problem arising can affect the people. So, if the society is abundant, then people will live an abundant life. Hence, people and society are connected to each other. So they are like husband and wife that always stick together and must always support each other.